Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for joining us for one of our talks today. Today, we're joined by the fantastic Darby Camp to talk about her latest project, Clifford the Big Red Dog. And it sounds like the audition process for this film was kind of a fairly quick process, and I was really interested in what that journey looked like for you in auditioning for this role.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick. I live in North Carolina, so most of my auditions are obviously going to be self-taped. And so I think I did like the original self-tape audition and then like a callback, basically all self-tape. And then they flew me out to New York City to do a screen test. And when I got there, it was like, it felt really like a big deal. It was like they actually put me in wardrobe and I was working like with basically a fake Clifford, kind of how they filmed it, kind of. And it was almost like we were filming. It was very interesting, but it was super fun, and I was very nervous. But now I'm very thankful because I mean I actually got it. So I guess being the nerves, I mean, didn't really affect my performance.
Do you remember what some of the scenes were that you were doing screen tests with and self tapes with from the beginning?
Yeah, I think I remember one of the main ones, like the first one was when I'm talking to my mom in our apartment when I just get back from school and I'm like, she was like, "How's your day?" I'm like, "Somewhere between abysmal and atrocious," because I remember like learning those words for the first time. And the screen test was walking back from school, like with the bullies, and then the big one of the speech. And I remember being so nervous because I had to actually do that like in front of also the crew because it was in a studio. So like the crew was there, producers, director, and it was really nerve wracking, but it was super fun. And right when I finished, I ran off, not ran off, but like I finished and I walked off and gave my dad a big hug was the first thing I did. So
And I believe you guys had a table read as well as part of the process before you started shooting. Do you find that table reads are really, really helpful because then you get the chance to kind of all start playing your characters together and really see what everybody else is doing as well?
yeah, I like table reads. They're not my favorite thing in the world, to be honest, but I do think they're fun and I like them. But sometimes when it's like a table read, I don't know for sure how I want to do it. So if I do it like the wrong way, I don't want people to think that's like, oh, that's how she's going to do it. But it's like, no, that was just like kind of a practice run. I'm going to give you like more options, you know what I mean? But I think table reads are pretty fun.
And this movie obviously is full of a lot of logistical challenges because of the way that you filmed it, where you had a giant 10-foot puppet of a dog with a couple of puppeteers really moving it around in scenes. And so, was there a necessity to have a lot of rehearsals before you were shooting scenes just to figure out all of the logistics? Because it's even, where you're going to look in a scene is really important in these moments as well.
Yeah, there were a bunch. I mean, obviously having to have a lot of rehearsal and also like after I got it, it was like my first day and they were doing the camera test and basically like seeing what outfits look good on screen and seeing how well the puppet does and basically teaching me how it works and like what to do basically. And it was kind of funny, but it was cool. And there were a lot of rehearsals. I think like some scenes we would go to the studio like the day before at the end of the day to like rehearse one of the scenes for the next day because there was a lot of like technical stuff with the puppet. I mean, sometimes it would like not work, like it'd be like stuck and then like things like that. But it was really fun.
Did you know what Clifford was going to end up looking like in the movie? Did they have any kind of mock ups or drawings of that? Or did you just have to fully imagine and wait till you saw the film like the rest of us?
They did have some mock-up drawings, but they weren't, super clear exactly how he looks now. And I also like didn't know for sure because the drawings were kind of just like sketches and I didn't really know exactly what to expect. So it was a little bit difficult filming. And now that I know, like I feel like there were a few things that I could have done better. Like when I wake up and I like see him for the first time, I I usually like go like how I would actually react, but like I didn't know how I would actually react if I saw a dog. So like now knowing what that looked like, I was like, I could probably do that a little bit better, but I'm happy with it.
And you have a lot of experience in working with visual effects and CGI at this point, especially coming off the back of both of the Christmas Chronicles movies. Was that really, really helpful in working on this movie to have that experience? And what are some of the things that you learned on Christmas Chronicles that really helped you in making this film?
It definitely was helpful getting familiar with CGI and things like that. Working with those was a little bit different because they didn't really interact with you like as much because they were just a tennis ball or like a little cardboard cutout. But it definitely helped with like it's easier to like play off things after getting practice playing off nothing, basically. Like one of the scenes in Christmas Chronicles, the elves were like sitting on me, so they didn't actually put something like on me. So it was very interesting.
And you said that one of your favorite scenes in shooting Clifford was the moment where you're in the like car race sequence and you're driving the truck, because even though there was a rig set up that was driving it, that people would be going past and just kind of like catching you in the driver's seat and being like, what's going on over there? What was a lot of the experience of filming those specific sequences? Because that was, I imagine, a lot of time to film those scenes as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. Definitely my favorite scene. I love it. And I remember reading it for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool. I'm like already like so excited because ever since I was little, like I always had like one of those like mini cars and I just loved like driving around. And so I finally was like, I got to sit and they were like, so this is how we're doing it. You're not actually going to drive. I was like, dang it. I knew I actually wasn't going to drive, but I literally wasn't going to drive it. But it was funny when people were walking by and being like, that's a 12-year-old in the driver's seat. And it was very confusing with like the camera, because sometimes the camera would be like in the truck, like right beside you, because it was small. I mean, and there was no AC in the truck either. It was so hot. And it was during the summer. It was so hot. It was very, I mean, uncomfortable, but it was still fun to film. And me and Isaac had a lot of improv too. When we were about to turn into his garage, there were a lot of lines, and so they were like, just play off each other, just go right into it. And we were like, okay.
Was that the case on a lot of other scenes where they would have a lot of improv and just have those moments of playing around, or was that just very specific to that particular scene?
It was mostly that scene, but there were some other scenes where we were just like play off each other and improv, and especially with Mr. Jack too. I mean, and there are a lot of comedians in this movie, and so they're already just so funny, and so I loved listening to them improv like themselves too. And I'm not super great at improv, and I am not a comedian, so it was more difficult for me, but it was still super fun.
And one of the other scenes that seems like it must have been logistically very challenging is the one where you're riding the dog itself, because I saw some behind the scenes video where they had like a mechanism for you to be strapped onto the top of. And so what was that like?
It was very fun. It was very strange. It was almost like riding a mechanical bull, like at like a festival kind of thing. And it was bigger though, and I was like strapped in so I couldn't fall. And it was on this like green screen, and it did get very tiring, and it was like an hour in between each setup. And so I would just like I didn't have I was out of school for summer, and so they gave me a Nintendo Switch to keep myself busy in between shots. So that was awesome. And I still use it like every single day. And also just like sitting on Clifford like for like hours straight sometimes if the setup was going to be like super quick, because it was such a hassle to get me on and off. My legs were like sore the next few days just from like sitting on it with like my, because Clifford's pretty wide. I mean, I was sitting on him with like my legs out, and I kind of got like tiring, but it was really fun and it turned out super cool.
It seems like riding a horse, but five horses.
Exactly. Yeah.
And did you find that the emotional scenes that you had to play with Clifford were maybe some of the most difficult ones? Because again, you're playing against puppeteers and a construction of what the dog is, and you don't necessarily have a scene partner. And so were those some of the more challenging scenes in terms of finding your performance?
They definitely were. I mean, it was definitely hard to play off of, I mean, a puppet and not an actual actor with like needing to cry and stuff. But the puppeteers, they were just incredibly talented, that they really like found a dog's movement and like reactions kind of thing. So like even like when they would like tilt its head and like they would kind of play off of what I was doing and like with my lines and how Clifford would react, and that definitely helped. I mean, it kind of felt like in the scene it was a real dog sometimes, but I mean, I kind of just imagine him being my dog and, being like, this isn't a puppet. This just pretend like this is a giant version of Marty, which is my dog. And then I have to, I would be crying if I was in Emily's situation. I don't want to spoil anything, but I would be crying if I was in her situation. So like just kind of channeling that.
Yeah. And one of the things I like about her as a character is she's someone who kind of gets to know everybody in the neighborhood, and really knows a lot of the adults around her as well, and is clearly very open and warm with people. Did you think of her as a character that was very mature as a character because she was spending a lot of time with adults, and even just being an only child and with her mom not being there and having other adults come, like her uncle, like some of the neighbors and the people around? So it felt like she was a very mature character for her age, which was great to watch.
I definitely think so. Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of friends her age. Like you said, I mean, she's mostly friends with like, she's an only child with her mom, and all of her neighbors are adults. And so I definitely think she's mature for her age. And, when Uncle Casey comes into town in the beginning, it's kind of like she's the babysitter for a little bit. And I love that about her. I mean, she definitely is mature for her age. And, in the beginning, you kind of feel sorry for her that, that she doesn't have that like child interaction kind of thing, which it's great to learn how to be around adults, but I think sometimes kids just want to be around kids. And so I'm glad to see her grow like throughout the movie and make friends with Owen, and, stick up for herself at her school, and have Clifford as her best friend, kind of.
And the relationship that you and Jack Whitehall built is really, really wonderful on screen. And like you said, it's almost like she's the babysitter at the beginning and he learns a lot from her, but also she learns a lot from him as well at the same time. And so what did you think that she was learning from him that you really wanted to capture in that dynamic between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, Emily and Casey's relationship is definitely very special. She definitely is like the babysitter in the beginning, and I think he definitely becomes more mature throughout the film and learns from her, and she definitely, learns from him on kind of how to, uh, be adult, I guess, or like learn that there are responsibilities, and she can kind of see how he doesn't really like the fact of responsibilities and lives literally in a mobile home. And maybe something she learns is what not to do with her life.
She also develops a lot of, inner and outer self-confidence throughout the film. You mentioned when she stands up for herself at school and the speech that she gives in front of a bunch of people that, maybe she would have had a lot of trouble doing that at the beginning of the movie. Was it easy to kind of navigate where she becomes more confident because it's scene by scene throughout the movie, or was it something where you really just found it through playing a lot of those scenes?
It definitely was hard to, kind of figure out where you were in the film, because we filmed it kind of like scattered out, not necessarily in order. And so she definitely does, find herself and become more confident. And I kind of just, like you said, like in the scene played off of what was like kind of happening, and things like that. But it really turned out great, which I'm glad, because a lot of the times I would just kind of be confused. I'd be like, wait, where are we again? Like, what is Emily's, mental state right now?
And in working on the film, what are some of the things that you feel like you really got the opportunity to learn, or some new things that you got the chance to try from this project?
I definitely learned how to work with a 10-foot red puppet, which I never worked with before, and how definitely how to learn how to take care of a 10-foot dog, and how Emily copes with, feeding him with a bunch of hot dogs from school and a bunch of burgers from Hardee's or Carl's Jr.
So if you ever meet a 10-foot dog, you're so ready for it.
I'm sorry, my dog. I'm so ready. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this about the film. I know people are absolutely loving it, and it's a really great performance. So thank you so much, Darby.
Of course. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.